to put an additional tank on the hill, and besides the 100,000 gallon, is that correct?
So Rio Diamonds Farm would be 30,000 gallons, Sweetgrass would be 100,000 gallons, and just for Plateau Farms would be 155,000.
So they have their own storage tanks besides that's separate from the 100,000.
Yes.
Okay. Then the next question I had was, it talks about them paying their fair share, and it lists the price of 5.5 cents a gallon. What is that? Is that of the 100,000, or is that of the water usage that they use on a monthly or regular basis?
As of 100,000.
So they're
So basically buy into the system to pay for the capital improvement, and then ongoing they're going to be paying the Dinsmore rate fee, which is separate, a separate rate charged on top of baseline for all other residences.
so then the farmers total is 200,000, or is an additional 100,000 gallons times the 5.5 cents. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the 5.5 cents is how it was calculated for their fair share for the initial capital.
That's for that 100,000 gallons.
For the 100,000 gallons.
Then down below it talks, right below that in the line, it talks about there's conditioned projects contribute 70,000, approximately 53,000 of which has been paid. What is that for? Other projects that were done separately, previous?
No, so that's money that's already come into pay
From the Dinsmore rate? Okay. And then the last question was the 100K that was the 100,000 that we approved in the budget. Was that for the extension of the water line up the hill, or was that going towards the other 94,000 for the 100,000 gallons tank expansion?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
We if I remember right, we budgeted $100,000 for capital improvements to Dinsmore Plateau from the city, like as an economic, I think, part of our development process. And so that is that 100,000 actually going towards the 94,000 outside of they got 8,000 they're contributing. And then,
so my understanding is there's an additional need for capital improvements up there, including the line up there at pumps that go towards so there are some additional projects that are coming down that might pay for those upgrades.
so that fair share will pay for those, or will the city pay for that?
So the entire thing is to try to set up the funding for the storage.
So the storage is that's what we budgeted for, was for the storage, but the other part we still have to come up with either the people with the projects or the city. Somebody has to come up with paying for like the water line expansion.
Right. So there's a separate rate established for the Dinsmore Plateau, and so those all the capital projects in that particular zone are paid for by the subscribers to the system.
By the subscriber. Okay. All right. Well, that answers my questions.
And you want to go on and decide number 6? You want to do?
Well, you want to go ahead and make a motion for this, or do you want to do them
You
individually?
can do them all together. We can just go to the next one.
Okay.
And then we'll go.
Item number 6 was on the rate study. I talked to the city manager earlier before the meeting, but I'd like to request that we get a copy of the actual proposal that we're approving. We place a copy in our boxes of the council. I don't need all the other people that submitted the request, but just the one that we're approving.
Yes.
That's my only question with item 6. And then the other 2, 7 and 8, those two I'm basically pulling for the point of making an emphasis on this 1383 item that we're requesting 2 letters to be sent to the state legislatures. The one letter on item 7 is asking for an extension on the deadline, and the public can't hear us, but I would hope that the public would read this and get the idea that this 1383 is going to be a big deal. We have the ability as a small city to get an exemption for a couple of years going immediately forward, but eventually that will run out and we will be part of that. I'll probably bring it up later in the end of the thing, but I can bring it up now. HWMA is trying to do is on the agenda to do a regional facility for this organic waste that has to be dealt with. And in the first letter, it talks about, I think it's the second letter, it talks about the cost that California, Cal Recycle has estimated that the cost to handle this by the jurisdictions, being Rio Dell, Fortuna, Humboldt County, is about $20 to $40 billion is what it's going to cost these jurisdictions. And so in item 7, it's asking that that was asking for $225 million to be approved to allow cities to set up, whether they hire staff, whether they put money toward putting the ordinances out that are going to have to be written to make this happen. And just as an idea of what is going to take place when this thing goes into effect, you're going to have an additional bin outside of your house that's separate from the waste that goes to the landfill now. And that stuff has got to be clean. It can't be contaminated with what other garbage you want to send to the landfill, or a dirty diaper or whatever, something of that nature. And so someone has to be able to go and look in that garbage container that you have. And this is why universal pickup is such a crucial conversation in this 1383. If somebody's going to have to look in that, they're going to have to figure out how to get rid of that, what they're going to do with it. If they don't have their own trucks, they would have to buy trucks, or they would have to contract with someone that has a truck. Universal Collection has told us that I think a dump truck is about $800,000 each, and they're, I think, 18 to 24 months delivery time. And so that's part of why HWMA is wanting to put together a regional facility, which will more than likely be someone like Ecology, that will have to deal with this. They literally did this in some other cities. They put on hip waders, and people would bring this garbage out, and they would get this supposedly clean organic garbage that's having to be dealt with in the 1383. You have to reduce your waste going to the landfill of that organic type waste by 75% by the year 2025. And so back to item 6, when this passed by Cal Recycle, you have to start taking steps to carry this out the 1st of January 2022, 6 months from now. And it's a pretty daunting task. It just got approved in November of last year. And so there is no funding available for this by the state. That's what this item letter 7 is about, is this $220 million to help cities put together just a plan to implement. And so this isn't going away. This is mandated by the state. It's one of those items, this is Frank's personal opinion at this point, that the state has thrown out more regulations that we as cities are left to handle due to their inefficiency to deal with the problems that they haven't done. So that's my comment on these 2 letters, that people would read them. They would keep their ears open as things come forward about 1383, because it's going to get bigger. I know Arcana's having public meetings and doing stuff with it, but they're a little more conscious on that issue. So with that aside, unless somebody else has a comment, I'll go ahead and make recommendations to pass to adopt these 4 I don't know, they're all resolutions, but I make a motion that we accept item 3, 6, 7, and 8 of the consent calendar.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve 3, 6, 7, and 8 of the consent calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Vote please. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to city manager and staff updates. I got page 31. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mayor Goins and members of the council. Staff has been monitoring the river situation, the drought, as the council is well aware. We last met in a special meeting to declare a drought emergency. The river level is again tracking at 2014 levels and slightly worse than 2014. But right now, the systems and water system that we are operating is in good standing. It's currently operating. The river cleanup, annual river cleanup is being scheduled for the weekend of August 13th. So there will be a dumpster provided at the end of Edwards Street for anybody cleaning up river items to deposit garbage into the dumpsters there at the street, near the river entry. So we are working with our contractor who is scheduled to begin work on our 2021 street maintenance projects for the asphalt portion of the projects. They've actually been working here for about 3 or so weeks on prep for that particular project. So we're looking forward to them laying down some new asphalt in various sections of town. We did issue a Every Door Direct mailer earlier today advising folks to not park on the street in the affected areas. The contractor has raised some concern about folks parking in those areas. And we do want to be transparent that that if the vehicles parked there have to be towed. And other than that, I will go ahead and return it to the mayor for any other questions of staff.
Thank you, city manager. We'll bring to council, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
No question.
Councilmember Carter.
No questions from the committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Woodall.
No questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilson.
Just, I think one at this point to city manager, I realize that the south side of the bridge is not in the city limits of Rio Dell. But is there any way, and this is hopefully with Chief Connor, but I don't know if he can hear us. Is there any way to get that mobile home that's been parked there for the, I think it's going on 4 weeks, with the plywood in the windows, and it's pretty ratty. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Councilmember Woodall with the nuisance committee would have some direction, but how do we get it out of there?
That's a great question, and it is in the county unincorporated. And what we will do is make contact with the sheriff's department to see if they have the vehicle removed. I do believe when it first showed up, it was tagged, but nothing happened subsequent to that, and the tag appeared to be removed from the RV. So,
I thought we saw one, but it looks like this. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Chief has.
Oh, yeah.
So I can address that issue if you like. I'll contact the Sheriff's Department's vehicle abatement and see where it is on their timeline. And if it's a long ways out, we can tow it. The problem is it's going to cost about $1,500. And it's whether or not the city wants to spend that kind of money on a vehicle that's not located within the city limits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Barnes. I would not be surprised if that's not on state property, state highways. I think that's probably a continuation of Route 283.
That is another angle to go. Yeah, we can contact Caltrans.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Hands raised,
No.
email? Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Moving on to pause. Discussion on placement of flags along Wildwood Avenue, page 37 in the packet. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Barnes, members of the council. So we did receive this correspondence last Wednesday related to the placement of additional flags. So we did receive some word back from our risk management group, Small Cities Organized Risk Efforts, which we call SCORE for short. And they are recommending that if the council wanted to proceed with this particular placement, that it be treated like any other infringement permit, including the inclusion of a whole harmless clause in favor of the city, along with insurance, listing the city as additionally insured. So with that, I wrote some of the concerns that staff had on page 37 of the packet, but you don't want to necessarily jump there before Mr. Angeloff has presented the proposal. So, if Nick wants to go ahead and speak through the mayor, then very much.
We're looking at, after I tallied everything up, it's like 64 new flag pole holders. And I put 50 flags up on the squiggly sidewalk, furthest point away from the road, and then mitigating that on the opposite sidewalk. So we have a corridor of flags going south. 2 at Memorial Park on each side of the sign, and 2 at Blue Star Park, 1 on each side of the monument, and then 3 on City Hall lawn, sort of the same positioning as the ones that were established during the Veterans Memorial. Really, that's about it. We got donations of concrete. We got a donation of auger, 4-inch auger hole. So I give some of the diagram in your packets. 4-inch auger hole with automated auger, so basically it's a walk behind to get the weight of the motor, augers the hole. Debris that dirt would go away already. We have something to take that. And then the concrete truck would come down the road and pour a little bit into a 5-gallon bucket, fill the hole, we put PVC pipe in there, flush with the ground. The pipe itself would be 12 inches long. The hole is about 18 inches deep. So it's a pretty quick and efficient process. We figured out by trial and error in the last lot. The augers are, the holes don't need to be that big of a diameter to handle the weight, pressure of the flag, 12-foot hole. So we pull that hole out big and pull over PVC pipe deep. And it's just getting it deeper than the bottom of the PVC. And that's about it. Everything's flush with the ground. We sort of learned our lesson there too. Given that it's 12-inch PVC pipe and 18-inch hole, we shouldn't have anything sticking up if there is. That's about it. Any questions?
Is I don't know if this goes to you or city manager on the cost that the score recommended for the insurance. Is that a monumental cost, or is there a number for that? And and if I understood, you're saying the chamber would have to pay that?
Correct. And what I don't have a quote for that. That would be the responsibility of the chamber. Once they make the application for the permit.
Do you have a feel for what it would be, like, thousands or hundreds, or?
I do not.
Because I would like to suggest that, unless it turns into some big monumental cost, that the city bear that, because it is in the city. I think it's a thing that honors the veterans, as well as also, I think it attracts people to our city. I know my wife likes to, at least a couple times during the 4th of July weekend, that we make the loop, go up, and we view it, and we see it, and looking at the picture that was displayed in our packet, the additional 64 flags, having it on the walkway where you can walk. It's like Fortuna has done, I believe, done the same thing. You have flag being in the middle of the roadway, you have it on the sides of the walkway, and I just think whatever cost seemingly that we would incur for that insurance, I think the city would benefit economically, as well as the privilege of having that honor to our veterans. So I'd like to make a suggestion that we pursue the cost of what it would cost to do that, and the city bear that. It's my comment.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor Garza. I totally agree with Councilmember Wilson that city bear the cost of any insurance package. One other comment make is that when you order the concrete, it's going to be really, really soupy. It's going to be so sloppy that it lays flat on the ground. Where you're not going to be able to.
We actually recommended that at the concrete. They recorded this last time.
And I volunteer myself again.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodall? Councilmember Carter?
I was wondering if Kyle was going to talk about concerns raised by staff.
So they're listed on page 30.
Okay, I didn't know if we were talking more about that, or if you're explaining that. Just discussion, but no, that's fine. No, I'm on board with flagpoles.
Thank you. And my question is just about, I think my understanding is that it was brought up, grass versus the edge of the sidewalk because of maintenance, and the staff having to maintain the lawns. Is there any response to that, or any concern that staff needs to bring up regarding that?
I actually forgot to add that to it. So, basically, the idea would be to drill a hole in the concrete itself. At 6 foot, there's been that will be a relatively easy way to go with it. There's no more concrete, but I'd be really nervous about breaking up that brand new sidewalk personally. The only other comment I have on that is some of the businesses around town the street do not own sidewalk. It incurred a trip hazard to their customers, and that they were concerned about liability. Sort of shrugged off at the time and said, sidewalk that it's fine. And that was it. You know, the city would prefer I go in that direction. Have to re-plan everything. Probably be a little less work. And this time, you know, I realized the issues with the last tranche of flagpoles. I devised a better system at this point. One of the main issues was couldn't get the holes deep enough. Some wickets were hard band in the medians, and we had already cut all PVC pipe safety is stuck up. Then realized that the number of stuck up, it's very difficult to get out there with an axle all out. Crazy. And eventually, did get softball out there. So, that's flush with the ground. You see flush with the concrete.
That was happening. I'm not trying to cause any trouble, I just want to make sure that we address that issue. So, what are we trying to do here? Providing direction to staff and board. Okay. What direction are you asking us? City manager.
So the city council can approve the concept that has been submitted by Mr. Angelo. It can defer it to a ad hoc committee. It could ask for changes or anything of that sort. The chamber will need to file for an encroachment permit and to begin that process. But if the council approves, we can start to work with the chamber.
And one other question I have is, because you advocated that there is no black policy, and it makes me have to ask, do we need a black policy? I mean, is that something, and since it's there, it kind of confirms that, but I don't know, so. You don't need one for my account, it was just there, so I asked.
Well, the council should be aware this is public property that the installation would be placed on. However, the flags may theoretically be placed at any time, could be years down the road, could be placed controversial flags or anything like that. I think you just want to be aware of that. And then also, in terms of the planning for the gateway, overall, it's periodically from time to time, there seems to be additions to the gateway without any overall plan for where the gateway is headed. And so every year there seems to be, every couple of years, there seems to be an additional addition to the gateway. So staff just brings that up. It's a policy consideration that the council may want to pursue, but it's not necessarily a problem with this particular project. I think everybody really likes the flags and what Nick has been able to do, what Chamber has been able to do. So it's not a question of that. So it's an overall question of where we're headed and knowing that these facilities are probably going to be around another 10 or 20 years. And where are we going to be 10 or 20 years from now? What type of flags would be displayed? What type of observances would be observed? Those sorts of things. And it's not that there's no, there's trust in Nick's and the Chamber's process, but at the same time, this is public property, and ultimately the city council is going to be responsible for what is displayed.
So would there be, and is that something that we could adopt a policy or?
Our recommendation would be to assign this. This is actually a pretty good example of a perfect project for the communication to handle permits of exception. Again, we've only gotten a written proposal on Wednesday, and wanted to make sure that we got it to the council as soon as possible for the council's consideration. It sounds like there's a lot of support for the additional flag displays. And there are some, concerns related to, insurance and the liability associated with this. Some private parties want to take on that additional liability. But it's something that we can look into through the encroachment permit process, which I don't think is going to be something that's going to be turned around super quickly. But it's something that we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Right, got one. Okay.
I'm gonna remove the queue, realize that your mom and your head out in the city here of,
The veteran?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that was Mr.
that was great.
Uh,
I mean, we need more of that. Oh. Did you say him for me?
I don't know. You can kind of whisper it, you on mine. Come on.
I don't even want to.
Okay, are there any hands raised or emails? Okay, then is there, a motion to adopt the flag placements along Wildwood Avenue? To support that and to direct the, staff and to move forward and work with the chamber.
Really such a long.
We have a motion from Councilmember Wilson. Is there a second?
I would second that, but, add that the city guarantee is costing insurance.
I agree with you.
We have a second with an amendment, and the motion maker has agreed to the amendment. So we have a motion, second, and
I would still like to see the beautification committee or something to develop a plan for the flags.
does that have to be part of?
You would want to incorporate that. The two makers of the motion would be accept that.
I don't want to.
I'll accept it.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, an amendment to add the insurance, and a second amendment to create a policy, have the beautification committee create a policy regarding flags. Does everyone agree with that motion? Is that second? Okay, then we have a vote. Motion carries 5-0. And now we come to council reports. Start with Councilmember Waddell.
I went to the fire meeting and, for Wildwood Days. And Wildwood Days. That's like it's been a long good, we had fireworks for the first time. That's going to be exciting. And they canceled muster because of the water shortage. They were doing that really well. We're gonna have one more meeting before. And I go tomorrow for my first Humboldt Transit Authority meeting in person. So that's about that. And then the other thing is, we're talking about the beautification and vulnerability pride committee. And people can put in their applications now. And you don't know what the committee is going to be. It's going to be made up of 2 members of the city council, 3 members of the public. The committee shall annually provide a report to the city council with specific recommendations for projects that enhance the visual aesthetics and wayfaring quality of Rio Dell public spaces or view sheds in order to produce a greater sense of community and pride. And I'm hoping that some people will put in an application because I think it will be beneficial for Rio Dell. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem?
No report.
Thank you. Councilmember Carter?
Yes, I attended the Redwood Region Economic Development Commission Board of Directors meeting on June 28th. There wasn't much to report. It was mostly internal, just budget and reviews of staff, and everything went well. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson?
You heard my 2 cents on 1383. The other item is next Thursday we have the HWMA meeting, and on the agenda is I think I mentioned it at the last meeting that the HWMA is going to bring on the agenda making a deal with Hambro, which is a company out of Crescent City, who has secured a location to open up a CRV buyback facility. And they came to the meeting last time to get the consensus of the board. Today, essentially, we wouldn't try to recertify and try to do CRV, because if we did, there wouldn't be enough for both entities to make it work. So for them to work, the HWMA needs to say we're going to not do anything for, we're going to get out of your way and let you guys make it work, because you seem to be able to know how to make it work, or HWMA can. And so that'll be on the agenda, and I'm reasonably sure that'll pass. And they're, because of the consensus of the council scene, where the board was good with that, they're already in motion, and they're hoping to have this done by the end of August, that you'll be able to take your CRV up to Arcata and get rid of it instead of having to drive to Crescent City to go to CRV.
I have no report, but I would like to take the moment to thank staff for everything they did to get the chamber ready, to get us back in chambers, to make it safe for everyone, the efforts to make it a hybrid meeting, and even if it didn't go well tonight, it will improve. And they did the best that they absolutely could. They made the chamber look fantastic. They've done as much as they could do. Technology does get you in the end every time, and you think it's smooth. Seems smooth this afternoon, and then it wasn't. So we apologize for anything that went wrong, but thank you very, very much for all that you guys did to make the chamber very usable and keep us all safe and together, be able to be together again. So that's all I have. Is there a motion to?
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We have a motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.
I'm taking you like that. You have a motion?
I have a lot of cats.
Really good.